I want you to close your eyes and imagine you're on a mountain. But this isn't a normal mountain like Mount Everest or Pikes Peak. This is a mountain made entirely out of garbage. Look around. In every direction, all you see are piles and piles of trash. Take a few steps. You can feel aluminum cans and broken glass crunching under your feet as you walk. Stop and listen. You can hear the cry of the vultures circling overhead, looking for their next meal. Take a deep breath. Woo, that garbage smell is strong. It's so strong you can actually taste it. Now I want you to imagine that this mountain of garbage isn't just a bad dream. It isn't going to go away when you open your eyes, because this mountain of garbage is where you live. This is your home. Oh, and also, you are just 3 years old. They call this Trash Mountain, and it's all too real to those who have to live there. Hundreds of children and their families make their homes in and around this mountain. How could such a terrible thing happen? Why would these families have to call a giant pile of garbage their home? Well, back in 1998, Hurricane Mitch devastated the country of Honduras. It was already one of the poorest countries in Central America. But the hurricane set them back another 50 years economically. It also left tens of thousands of children orphaned to roam the streets of Tegucigalpa, the capital city. Since the country was so poor, there were no resources to help out these children. The kids had no opportunity for education. Many of them had no families and nowhere to turn for help. Many lived on the street. Some resorted to making Trash Mountain their home. Years later, hundreds of kids and families still work and live there today. Now, as you might imagine, if you're living in a mountain made out of garbage, you have to deal with a lot of unpleasant conditions. Circling Trash Mountain are those vultures I mentioned before, because it's not unusual for a dead body or body parts to wind up in the dump. There are also packs of wild dogs roaming around and cows who graze on what they find in the trash. But that's only part of the hardship these families face. Historically, the dump has been the place where bad people live and work. Well, they still do. These children are growing up surrounded by drug dealers, addicts, alcoholics, and gangs. Some parents force their daughters into prostitution just to make another 50 cents a day so the family can eat. 50 cents. Most of us consider that worthless change, not even enough for a drink at Starbucks. And yet, on Trash Mountain, parents will sell out their children for that price. Most of the kids also have to work in the dump. As soon as they're old enough to sift through trash and find things to sell, they join their parents on the mountain. But even if the kids are too young to work, they still stay on the mountain. Their parents put them in a cardboard box next to where they work. It's not unusual to see a 2-year-old taking care of an infant, both of them in a box, while their parents and older siblings rummage through the garbage trying to survive. It's a brutal, brutal life for children. There was a boy named Kevin. When Kevin was 5, he had already learned how to hitch rides on the back of the garbage trucks. That's the way to make sure you get the best and newest stuff from the truck. But one day, tragically, Kevin slipped and fell, and the truck killed him instantly. And the adults all around him just kept working. That sounds like an awful cold reaction, but the hard truth is those adults could not afford to stop. And honestly, the death of a 5-year-old boy is not really unusual on Trash Mountain. The response to Kevin's tragedy simply signifies how low the value of life had become there. So yes, Trash Mountain can truly be hell on earth, but the human spirit can never completely be snuffed out, which is why every so often, even in the middle of this hell on earth, a miracle can sneak through, and one has. Amazingly, right there in Trash Mountain, there's actually a place for love, faith, and hope. Let me tell you how those 3 essential elements came to flourish there. In 2001, Pastor Johnny and his 5-year-old daughter went on a serendipitous, life-changing mission. He had some medical waste to get rid of, and he brought it to Trash Mountain. That's when he saw the children working in the dump for the first time, and it broke his heart. Johnny's daughter was even more deeply affected. She saw kids even younger than her living and working in the horrible conditions I described to you. With kid-like determination, she made her father promise that he would do something to help them. Well, to this man of God, that job made any one of Tom Cruise's so-called impossible missions sound like a walk in the park. But for his daughter's sake, and the sake of all those trapped in this harsh reality, the pastor tried. It wasn't going to be easy. First of all, the people of Trash Mountain were very suspicious. They had been let down before. Ministers and other people from the outside world would show up, promise to help, and never be seen again because they were overwhelmed by the magnitude of what had to be done. So the people didn't trust outsiders. And despite their surroundings, they were also proud. They were poor and uneducated, but they didn't want pity. They weren't looking for a handout, they were looking for a hand up. But how could you help when the whole country was struggling financially? When there didn't seem to be a viable way out? Pastor Johnny decided he wouldn't give up. He felt like these people were his mission. So he spent months bringing food and water to Trash Mountain. And slowly, they began to trust him. Slowly, they allowed him to be part of their community. They invited him to join them for meals, which often meant cooked garbage. He ate things like chicken insides and other dishes that probably none of you listening to this would ever consider eating. And since it's an insult in Honduras to be invited to dinner and not partake, Pastor Johnny felt he had to eat whatever he was served. And on several occasions, the meal made him so sick, he thought he would die. But he kept coming back out of love. Pastor Johnny wasn't just a man of God. He also was trained as an educator, and his wife as well. Together they came up with an idea to start a school for the children of Trash Mountain, to give them a chance and an education, perhaps a way out. But how do you start a school in a garbage dump with no supplies? They soon found out how resourceful these people could be. They scrounged through the trash and found pencils and paper that others had thrown away. They used tires to make desks for the students because they knew how to utilize the little that Trash Mountain had to offer. A school was born and a class was in session. They called the school Amor, Fe y Esperanza. In English, that means love, faith, and hope. The first year there were 30 students. The second year there were 50 students. The third year there were 80. There in the middle of the vultures and the wild dogs and the cattle and the noise and the trucks and the smell, that horrible garbage smell. These kids were determined to learn no matter what. And it worked. And in 2011, the first class ever, a class of 9 students graduated from Afe. One of those students was Renee, the first child Pastor Johnny befriended on Trash Mountain. He's sandwiched between all those girls. And Renee, believe it or not, is now studying at the university because he and his family had faith that they could triumph over their surroundings. Afe kept growing and people started to notice. The government found out and decided the school needed to move to a better location. Pastor Johnny was able to find a soccer field near the dump where they could hold classes, but there still were no buildings to hold classes in. One day he pointed over at the soccer field and told me how he ran a school with no structures. He said, "You see that tree over there? That's where we have first grade, and the tree over there is where we have second grade, and that big tree in the middle, that's where we hold classes when it rains." Well, you can only run a school so long with only trees for shelter. 5 years after the first class was held on Trash Mountain, ground was broken on the first classroom at Afe. Since then, 4 more buildings have been added, including a medical facility. The school has become such a huge success story that has captured the attention of the mayor of Tegucigalpa and the president of Honduras. That success is a result of Afe's curriculum. It goes beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic to important life lessons. Yes, they have all the important academic classes. Yes, they learn everything from computer skills to spiritual, religious education. But because of the way they've grown up, without the things most of our kids take for granted, they are taught other basic things too, like how to use a toilet, and what running water is, and what a normal family looks like. To these children, this school is a miracle. The time came to take the next step, so in 2010, something even more incredible happened. A new project called Houses of Hope was launched to build homes for the families whose children attended AFE. These houses were very basic, no running water or toilets, but every family who moves in has a door they can lock. Not only are they safe from the dangers of life on Trash Mountain, they also have a private space that's all their own, and the dignity that comes with it. And we all can hardly imagine how much that means to a family that has endured what these families have gone through. And there's even more progress is coming. Land has been granted for a new housing development that will include 141 new homes, and those homes will have running water and toilets. The houses are being designed for the families of the students who have graduated from AFE. It's a $2.5 million project. There are also plans to create a sustainable food source for the people on Trash Mountain that will provide them with fish and fresh produce. It sounds like a lot, but after everything they've accomplished, after everything that's happened over the past few years, the people of Trash Mountain believe nothing is impossible. Finally, they have hope. Around 200 students currently attend AFE. They've started an after-school program to help adults who work at the dump all day to improve their education and better their lives. And since the high school opens its doors in 2009, 15 students have graduated and 9 have gone on to the university. Mariella on the left is studying nutrition, Marilyn in the middle is studying to become a dentist like me, and Antonio on the right is studying graphic design, which is quite a change from the first day Antonio came to school. Then he was wearing a mask and carrying a machete. His goal at the time, in his words, to become an assassin for the gang who ruled Trash Mountain. He has since stopped carrying that machete and that anger. My future colleague in dentistry, Marilyn, has also escaped a terrible fate. She endured sexual abuse by every male member of her family. Despite the trauma of this kind of childhood, she is now one of AFE's top mentors, taking other young girls under her wing and helping them to succeed the way she has. She was given the gift of hope, and now she is passing it on. Love, faith, and hope. For the first time in years, they are a vital part of Trash Mountain. When I visited the school recently, I was so impressed by the excitement and hope in the children's voices. As I left each classroom, the teacher implored me to say to the students, "Te veo en la universidad." See you at the university. What a battle cry. But hope isn't always enough. As I told you earlier, Honduras is one of the poorest countries in Central America. It has no social safety net, no government programs to help the less fortunate. There are still children working on Trash Mountain who are unable to attend school, still families without homes, still people without hope. That is the worst tragedy of all. It has been said that man can live weeks without food, days without water, minutes without oxygen, but only seconds without hope. Amor, fe y esperanza. Love, faith, and hope has been a lifeline not only to these kids, but to the entire community. Adults are showing up at the school so that they too can benefit from the education that their kids are getting. For the first time ever, people are finding a way off of Trash Mountain and into education and real homes and better jobs. But for Pastor Johnny and his team, every day is an uphill struggle. Their budget is meager and their challenges feel endless. But we have the power to change that. And that's why I've told you the story of these incredible people and their struggle today. I ask that you help continue to bring these brave, noble people the hope that they so desperately need. I ask that you help them escape the violence, the abuse, and the horror of their everyday lives. I ask that you donate so that we can bring all the children, as well as the adults, off of Trash Mountain to a safe and secure home. I ask that you grant these people the basic dignity all of us take for granted. I hope you'll join me in supporting this incredibly worthy cause. This is one mountain these children shouldn't have to climb. This is one mountain they should never have to see again. Thank you. you.